start.
And welcome to another exciting episode of the KLIQ Nation's Comic Book Chronicles. My name is Tim D-O-double-G. And we have the Fatal Four back in effect this week. We have with us the man behind the sound effects at Agent_70 on Twitter.
What's up, everybody?
We also have at RowdyCat on Twitter.
Hello. I waited this time. Haha. Happy Black History Month. Folks.
It has begun. And we also have rejoining the show since we've moved back to Thursday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern Time, at PCN_Dirt on Twitter.
Mwah, 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 mwah. I love you too. I love you all. Mwah, mwah, mwah.
Awesome.
Make sure to go to our website, thekliqnation.com, where you can find previous episodes of the Comic Book Chronicles and Comic Book News. Follow us on our social media accounts. On the homepage, you can find us on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Google+. Make sure to subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, Google Play, TuneIn Radio, and CSPN.us, where we are a part of the CSPN Media Podcast Network. Remember, we record live now every Thursday night, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. And you can watch weekly by going to thekliqnation.com/live. And make sure Chronicles and CB Chron, when you're discussing comic books on social media, to join in the conversation. Alrighty. First up for review this week is Dark Knight's Metal number 5, I believe it is.
Yes. It's a penultimate issue, right?
Penultimate, as they call
Well,
it.
kind of. There's
Oh yeah, because there's a week off or a month off for February.
Well, there's like a Wild Hunt special that comes out first.
I saw that.
Yeah.
So what is that supposed to be? Like
part of the series that they didn't have room for, so they just made up a tie-in instead of giving it a number.
Seriously? Oh my god. Oh my goodness.
But we had a surprise return, a little more Wonder Woman focused here with her battle. Now I'm forgetting who was she fighting with. Oh, the Batman that laughs, right?
Well, she was fighting with Black Adam.
Oh, Black Adam, that's right. Who just all of a sudden just popped out of nowhere.
Yeah.
A couple issues ago.
That's the truth. Well, that happens a lot in this story.
Yeah. And we also got to see dark versions of herself at the end, like we had earlier with Batman.
Right.
We saw a huge Hawkman, possessed Hawkman fighting Batman and Superman.
Right. Like we kind of pick up right where we left off in the last issue at like the Universal Forge, where like all good things and bad things come from, basically.
Right.
Yeah, and if you read the Hawkman Found special, it explains what happened to him and how he turned into that big monster.
Yeah. I feel like the Hawkman Found didn't really get a lot of buzz after it came out. I mean, I guess understandable because not too much happened.
Yeah, I mean, it was one of those where I think, did Lemire write that one? I think that was Jeff Lemire. Yeah, and so like he's got an interesting storytelling style, and it definitely had like a neat kind of flow to it. But I mean, it was honestly, it could have been 4 pages instead of 20. You know what I mean? But I mean, it was all right. It was one of those things where I actually read it out of order. I was behind on Metal, so I read Metal 3 and then read Hawkman, and I was like, what the hell? Like, and then I read Metal 4, and I was like, oh, okay, I should have read this.
That's how it comes back together, exactly.
Right. So, but yeah, I mean, it was interesting enough, but really didn't have to be a whole issue.
Yeah,
it could have been a backup. Like they should have put like a short backup in the end of 4 and just stuck it there. But whatever, hey.
Dirt, I liked your notes on this because it really did kind of boil down my, like the other kind of less, positive thoughts I had about this issue.
Yeah, that's the thing. I've had this problem with Metal since the very beginning, where it doesn't feel like it's really well defined. You just have this idea that because of the multiverse, there's stuff out there, and there's, we found this like anti-matter multiverse, this dark multiverse, and in it's like all the horrible versions of the multiverse, which technically should just be part of the normal multiverse, but I digress. And so because of that, there's somehow some sort of threat coming from the fact that there's this nth metal thing that happens that somehow is being used in some way to create something that'll do something to destroy the earth in some way for somebody so they can do something. But I just like, the more I read it, the more I'm just like, there's some cool stuff going on here, but it honestly, like, I'm glad they call it Metal, because it feels like watching an old music video where that there's a story, but there's just randomly these shots of the band like on the back of a flatbed truck that have absolutely nothing to do with the actual story of the music video. And that's what I feel when I'm reading this book. It's like, okay, like there's a thread of something going on here, right, but for the most part, it's just to put some like cool shots of guys with their hair flowing and, stuff going on in the background.
I was about to say Guns N' Roses, November Rain. This is not. Oh, that's a shout out to the 80s kids out there.
I mean, I don't necessarily dislike it, but I'm just still, even after issue 5, I'm just kind of going, now what exactly?
Right.
Like, okay, nth metal. All right.
I would just say, I would say my only real thoughts on this issue is that I actually enjoyed it because it felt like we were moving quickly to the end. Like we're actually getting to like the final battle. And, I'm just now at this point hoping there's a decent payoff at the end of the limited series.
Yeah, it's got to be going somewhere. And I think one of the problems is DC has already launched their New Age of Heroes books, which are somehow supposed to fold out of Metal.
Really?
But yeah, that was something
like and all that.
Some of them are supposed to, like the Terrifics does.
Yeah, they're like, you've seen them in Metal. Now they get their own series, and I'm like, I don't know who any of these people are. Like, I have not seen them in Metal.
The Immortal Men, I guess, appeared in the those one shots, maybe, or maybe earlier on in Metal. I can't remember.
Well, like I know one of the Terrifics, I think it's Mr. Terrific and Plastic Man and somebody else. And yeah, we've seen them,
right?
At least the egg of Plastic Man in this thing.
Right.
But I mean, just to go off on a slight tangent, Damage #1 came out and I read it and I was like, who is this guy? Like, why do I care? Like, what? Yeah. It's like you got a Hulk story. That's great. But otherwise, there's nothing really. Guy falls out of the sky. He's a monster. And then he turns back into a person. Like, okay, great. At least Ang Lee even got that much right. So,
no.
But yeah, it's just, I don't know. Metal it's the delays on getting it out have certainly hurt a lot of the stuff around it. And I don't know. I mean, Batman sells. I mean, Batman, every issue of Metal we sell out. We order reprints, we order all the specials, we order variant covers, and it always sells. So, I mean, there's something's going right somewhere with someone, but I'm just still kind of waiting here, like, all right. Oh, and I almost forgot about this. I was flipping through, I was reading that crossover today, the one that was in Justice League and Flash and Green Lantern and everything, the Metal tie-in, and I saw one of the ads and I totally forgot. Baby Darkseid is in the ads for Metal. Because if you remember, Darkseid actually was reborn, so there's like a baby version of Darkseid somewhere in the DC universe, and he's in the ads. We haven't seen him anywhere in the series.
We haven't. I thought he was in one of the one shots. No,
the baby.
Batman in the Signals, according to the cover, it says it's coming out of metal too, but I don't see. I mean, I don't know if anything that would suggest that's actually true. I'm gonna let y'all know something.
Got me.
Yeah, it's kind of a mess, but whatever.
I think that was actually resolved over in Wonder Woman because he's like full grown again.
Yeah, well, that doesn't help metal.
Yeah, but
I mean, because in the ad shows, it's got the dark versions of everybody sitting there. You've got the Doomsday one, you've got the Green Lantern one, you've got the Flash one, whatever. They're all sitting there, and then you see like the silhouettes of like Batman and Superman all battle hardened. You're looking over their shoulder, and then I realized down in the corner there's Baby Darkseid, like sitting there on the hero side looking at the bad guys.
Right.
And I'm like, well, this has not played into the story into any major degree, so I don't know. We'll see. Maybe there's something in the last issue where it's going to be a big deal, but. Anyway, all right, enough of that tangent.
All right. So ultimately, like I said, I enjoyed it purely from the perspective that we're getting to the end, and it seems like there's like a lot of things moving towards, moving in one direction towards a certain endpoint. So I'm hoping that it's a payoff.
All right.
All righty.
Who wants to toss one of their books out?
There's another event going on in Marvel that's kind of been, I think we've all been kind of nonplussed by it. And what I'm referring to is Phoenix Resurrection.
Yeah,
this miniseries ended this week, and we've all been spoiled as to what the outcome is. And ultimately, I guess that's the payoff. But getting to it has just been one slog. I tend to be kind of underwhelmed by the whole thing. What about you guys?
Same. It was like, okay, cool. It's cool. I guess she's back, but the whole process of how she came back just was. What was my note for it? I said meh event altogether. But hey, Jean Grey's alive again, I guess.
Right.
One of the things I loved was the solicitation for the issue that came out this week. The final line of it said something along the lines of, will the X-Men find their old friend, or will they find something darker? And I was like, well, I mean, I guess there's going to be something darker involved if you put it that way. I kind of want the story to end and just be like, oh no, it's Jean. She's back. Everything's fine. There's nothing to worry about. No threat to the universe. Thanks for coming. That would be a nice twist. They would get me for once.
I was about to say spoiler alert, Doug. It actually kind of works out that way. I hate to spoil it for you. You probably just end up reading it like on the quick, but ultimately,
no.
Ultimately, what we end up with is, an appearance by the dark side of Phoenix, by Dark Phoenix, basically. And, there is sort of a resolution to the relationship between the Phoenix Force and Jean Grey. Although, my own notes say, is it ever really the case that they're done, that that they've called it quits between each other? Because, this is the character that has been, the primary host for the Phoenix Force. We've seen different hosts over, the span of, comics history, even in, Marvel Legacy #1. I always thought that we would see more of the Phoenix stuff happening. And we sort of did, but, to see it kind of end on a whimper like this, it's kind of underwhelming.
Yeah, vehicle to get her back. And I thought they were going to use it as a way to bring Cyclops back with her. He did come back.
Spoiler alert. Yeah, I was going to say spoiler alert for anyone who hasn't read it.
Just to die again.
Exactly. No, Cyclops does make a brief appearance in this issue. So whether or not he's actually alive is something else. So,
yep.
All right.
Let me pick one.
Yeah, I guess we can pop out there to kind of round up the events.
Which one?
The No Surrender event, Agents.
Yeah,
78.
So there might have been some deaths in this.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, not in this issue. There's one close to death, definitely.
Yeah.
And they still have yet to come back to the other incident that happened. But yeah, mostly this issue is pretty much them slowly figuring out, hey, something's going on that that they're just pawns in. And there's like 2 Avengers teams in 2 different places. One of them getting themselves handed, and the other one's kind of like, well, let's watch and see what's going on. And they slowly start to put together that it is indeed a sort of contest of villains, something going on, and they're just kind of in the middle of it. But it's at the end of near the end of the issue, they kind of sort of figure it out. They still don't know who's behind it, and nor have they even got to that point to try to figure out all even though they, as one of the people behind it has said, they shouldn't. They should know. But that is the thing. But most of this issue was pretty much action. If you are those type who don't like to read and a lot of action,
and some great art from Pepe Larraz.
Yes, agreed.
Marvel Young Gun.
There you go.
Who's not quite young, but
no. All right. So let's see.
I guess I'll go.
Go ahead.
All new Wolverine number 30, which is actually going to be my click of the week.
Wow.
So I slept on the Orphans of Etz story arc in All New Wolverine because, one, I wasn't really reading All New Wolverine. But when I saw the writer Tom Taylor post on Twitter that Gabby, 2 issues ago, Gabby would get a code name in, I guess, 28. I was like, okay, I need to check that out just to see what her name's going to be. Read the story. It was great. Her nickname, Honey Badger, was given to her by Dakin, yeah. And it was just done in a hilarious way. And I love sort of the interaction between Laura and Gabby and Dakin and the rest of her family members. And then these mysterious masked villains that were hunting her, that I went and read the beginning of the story arc all the way through, and then 29 and 30. And it had a very satisfying conclusion where they bring in those that were familiar with the Marumasa blade and that sword that can kill Wolverine. That metal is used to forge like bullets to hunt down all these former weaponettes people. And like Logan and Creed and Lady Deathstrike actually being killed with it, but then resurrected because they dig the bullet out. Dakin starts the series or the story arc with missing his left arm because he's captured and tortured by these people. And as the story arc goes through, he eventually grows the arm back. And then at one point, last issue, he gets himself kidnapped so they can use like Find My iPhone, because he cut himself open and stuck a cell phone in his body to use as a homing beacon so they could come find where their base was at. To the resolution of Laura deciding to work with the Orphans of Etz, because they started as a support group for people that had been like all the weaponettes people had like killed and murdered like their family members for different missions and whatnot, so they wanted payback. And Laura agrees that the things that they did while they were brainwashed and whatnot were bad, but she vows to work with them to find the people who sent them on those missions and not kill them, but bring them to justice. And that's kind of where it ends. So I'm wondering if that's gonna be like the next like couple stories going forward, her on these missions to help the Orphans of Etz find closure.
I was about to say that's not the only story regarding a support group that I guess was released this week. That's interesting.
Yep.
Interesting. All right. All right. I know that Roddy and I read Tales of Suspense number 101.
Yes.
I just wanted to bring this up because this was a really fun book for me to read this week. It actually kind of plays out the way I thought it would because of the suspected the suspected, thought to be deceased Natasha Alianova Romanov running around isn't exactly who we think it is. What's fun about this issue is the interactions between the Winter Soldier and Clint Barton, aka Hawkeye. It's kind of a cool twist on the Falcon Winter Soldier stuff in Cap Civil War.
Yeah, I kind of said it's like kind of like a buddy movie type situation. Can't remember if I said last issue with this, but like if they did like a buddy movie between them two, that would be kind of cool. Although I'm not sure if Renner would be the one to pull it off, but nevertheless, it would be pretty cool. But yeah, they ended up finding a widow, just not the one they were looking for.
Right.
And apparently, we also found out that Skids is around. So who knew?
I think.
Skids.
Yes.
Huh.
Yes, I think, but just to give Tim and all the other viewers and listeners a heads up, I think we have seen this evolution in Skids' character and story told already. It's just it's been a while since we've actually seen her. And spoiler alert, just in case it is a spoiler to anybody. Skids at some point had become an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. And that's why she pops up in this issue.
Yeah.
Kind of doing some spycraft.
Who Clint amusingly thought was Boom Boom at first.
I thought it was too. Just based on the art, I started laughing. That was a great laugh out loud moment.
I was like, I know, right? I was looking at that. I was like, yeah, I can see why you could say that, but at the same time, I'm like, no, we know she wouldn't come off like that. So,
right. That's good. That's good. Yeah, no, this has been a surprisingly fun read for what is it? 2 issues in now?
Yeah.
So it's a cool read.
All right. What else you got, Doug?
Well,
yeah, something
I mentioned earlier. We could talk about Silencer #1. I know I'm not the only one who read it.
I skimmed it.
Yeah, it was definitely meatier than Damage #1, which we got last week or 2 weeks ago. Last week, I don't remember. Whenever it was, it's a little more story than in that one. And in fact, I actually read it because we had gotten a review copy way in advance. That was like the penciled and inked pages with the word balloons on it. So I actually went through with the actual one and compared page to page to see what they changed, and only a few small changes before it went to print. But it's this former assassin who has left the superhero field, gets drawn back in. There's a connection to the Batman family that I don't want to spoil. Okay. But there's a character that makes an appearance here that's pretty big in the Bat universe.
That's the character behind this character being drawn back in.
Right. And she has this ability. She's called the Silencer because she has this ability to create this noise dampening field, I guess you could call it, where just no sounds escape. So,
if you will.
Yeah. So when she goes to attack somebody, she can turn it on and all the stuff can go down. Nobody hears anything and nobody's any the wiser. So it's an interesting power. It's one of those superpowers that really isn't like a useful power, really on its own, but you use it in tandem with something else. And yeah, okay, it can be pretty useful. You're not, stopping airplanes from dropping out of the sky or anything like that, but it has its moments. So I thought it was an interesting take on the character. It's an interesting way to show the assassin. We see her family and we get this idea that she really is kind of this good person and she wants out of this life and everything. But the main problem is, even after all of this that they do in the story, I'm still not sure like why I should particularly care about her all that much, and why, like, what's my hook for really wanting to keep reading,
Gotcha.
Like it was okay, and I might see if it goes anywhere. Like I'll skim, issue 2 and see if there's anything else interesting in it. But it's just kind of, teetering right on that line right now, where it's like, okay, like I said, we got more meat than damage, but I'm still not 100% sold on it.
Do you have any opinion, negative, positive, strong, or weak on Romita Jr.'s art on this?
No.
Okay.
I mean, it looks a little more focused, I'd say, than some of his other stuff, and probably because he's had more time to work on it. I know a lot of the mainstream stuff that he does, it looks like he sketches out pretty quickly.
I was going to say inking, because I think a lot of times that's really who's inking and whoever's. Oh, so Sandra Hope is the inker, and I think she's a Wildstorm veteran. So she definitely has, I don't want to say a heavier embellishment on pencils. And also, nowadays with the digital coloring, that also kind of affects.
Yeah, coloring adds a lot nowadays. I was surprised. That was another thing when I was going through comparing the penciled and inked pages with the final product, is how much stuff is actually done by the colorist now. All the accent lines and the smoke and the clouds and the textures and the trees, and a lot of stuff is just like the art. There's a line where the parking lot is and where there's sky. A lot of times the colorist is the one that puts in a lot of the buildings, or puts in the clouds, or puts in all the excitement lines and that kind of stuff. So yeah, colorists, that's we should have mentioned that when we were talking about colorists in the year in review thing, that they actually do a whole lot more than just put some blue here and some orange there.
No, I agree. It's obviously getting so much more important now than ever. All right.
So, Tim, did you read Silencer?
I did. I liked it. Yeah, it was definitely better than Damage. Art-wise, Damage was better just because Tony Daniel, I think, a little more cinematic, I guess, in his artwork. But story-wise, and at least how it ties into the Batman side of the DCU is intriguing. Damage tied into, I guess, the Suicide Squad side, how with its ending at least. But for now, it's just kind of like, eh.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing. The Suicide Squad and Damage was just more of like a crossover type thing, whereas this tie-in to the Bat family is very much more of a tie-in. It's very much more of a being woven into the fabric, as opposed to just Suicide Squad appearing in Damage.
Right.
All right. Let's see. Roddy, you got anything before I guess we head into real rapid fire?
Sure. I will excuse me. Black Panther, Long Live the King, #4. So I've mentioned this before. This is the Comixology original that is out now and will at some point come to print when they put it all together. This is like I think this is the penultimate issue, if I'm not mistaken, because I think it's only going to 5. But either case, in this case, Shuri goes after Charlotte goes off the bridge, off the grid. Shuri goes after him, but he and his old friend Kantu, who have stopped beefing and are going to look into what's going on with the White Gorilla tribe, who has come back and started doing some shenanigans, and apparently brought back M'Baku, aka Man Ape. And he's been empowered a little bit by Baron Macabre. And of course, as you would think would happen, a fight ensues between the two parties. And also some shenanigans happened in the form of when Shuri comes along, she takes Kantu as an enemy because he ends up in this armor of these robotic animals that he's controlling. And she takes him for an enemy. She starts shooting at him, and then that kind of throws things off, and Man Ape gets the upper hand for a minute until things turn around, and the day is won by the Black Panther and crew. And that pretty much ends that. But apparently, there is still something else to go in this miniseries. So I'm not sure what, because if they had ended it there, that seemed like that would have been it. But otherwise, it's a good read. You should check it out if you're a Black Panther fan. I was like, it's kind of one of those like, hey, just in time for the movie, they're bringing this, that, and the other kind of back into the fold for a minute. So check it out if you can.
Yeah, I keep forgetting about it since it's digital. There's a couple of digital series I need to check out, but they eventually hit the Marvel Unlimited too, right?
Well, I think so. They definitely come to print after a certain point, but I'm not sure if they've been like I hadn't seen the Iron Fist one on.
It has come out on print, the Iron Fist one.
Yeah, that one just came out in print last week, I think.
Yeah,
so, yeah, but I haven't even checked Marvel Unlimited to see if it's going to come there, but I would imagine it should.
Okay.
All right, we in rapid fire time?
Yeah.
Rapid fire. Fire up the Vulcan. All right. I'll lead off on rapid fire. I've got 2 books left. My first book is Astro City number 50, and it's funny because it's a quiet story of an innocent bystander to a superhero battle who sets up a support group for other innocent bystanders severely hurt or traumatized by a superhero battle. So it's kind of funny that, this in the 50th issue of Astro City has a very similar story to that Orphans of X storyline in All New Wolverine. The story here, interestingly, ends on a cliffhanger, unlike many of BCX one-and-done Astro City stories. And my last rapid-fire book is my potential KLIQ of the week, and it's Spider-Gwen number 28. And I know I know a lot of people don't give Robbie Rodriguez's art any love, but this book really deserves some more readership. I don't know where it is in the sales charts, but I'll be frank with you guys. For as much as I hate, now forget dislike, I wrote dislike. As much as I hate alternate realities and multiverse shenanigans, I appreciate what Latour and Robbie Rodriguez have done with Spider-Gwen and 65. In this issue, their version of Matt Murdock's origin and the remixed version of the iconic phrase behind every Spider-Man inspired hero are delivered with heart and verve.
Yeah, I've been looking. I'm just behind on it.
This issue's good.
You're never going to let me live that down, are you?
What about Robbie Rodriguez?
Yes. Hey, man, different strokes.
I know.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I got 2. Then I'll do rapids on. First one is Amazing Spider-Man: Renew Your Vows, number 15. This one is on the chopping block. My son and I are both disappointed in the changes made by Legacy. They decided to jump into the future. So instead of having a superpowered kid, which was interesting, we've got a family dealing with a superpowered teenager, which has been done millions of times in millions of different stories. So I don't know. Legacy may kill another one. And then Thanos 16, I actually thought it came out this week, but it came out last week, but I just happened to be behind on it. But I read it this week and I liked it, so too bad, it counts. And that is for a Thanos book, it's a lot funnier than it probably should be.
Sure.
But it's really interesting. And I tend to hate stories that go into the future because the futures never actually happen because, whatever. But this is really interesting. It's really a lot of fun. And so at Thanos, I thought when it switched writers, I would probably drop it. But as of now, I am not, because this is just as much fun and entertaining as it was before. So there you go.
Agreed.
Friend of the show, Donnie Cates.
Yep.
He's taken over 2 books on Marvel and is killing on both of them.
Definitely.
All right. I have Defenders number 9. On the final page, it said to be concluded. So I guess maybe the series will end with number 10, and Bendis will be done, at least for that series at Marvel. I'm shocked that they're not going to bring another writer in just to keep the book going, because Defenders, that's a name from Netflix, but apparently not
his baby. This was pretty much his baby. I guess they decided to just let it go with him.
It's been fun though. So we have a bunch of Defender recruits coming on to help them take on Diamondback and his recruits of the Fitzer and Moonstone, who I guess are bad again, even though we saw them in Thunderbolts being good. So again, Bendis doing whatever he wants with continuity. Invincible Iron Man 596, another Bendis book. Tony is still having arguments in his head with friends and family members. Riri Williams gets her Iron Man, Tony Stark equipment and tech what do you call it? Repoed basically by Stark, whatever, International, whatever they're calling themselves these days. And Doom fights the Hood because Bendis is in love with the Hood. Flash Annual. It was basically teases a bunch of fun stuff coming up in the Flash and return of another villain speedster. And that's it.
All right. Well, in that case, I will try to blow through mine as fast as I can. Falcon number 4. So last issue, Falcon gets taken out of his body and sent to hell. Meanwhile, Patriot is trying to figure out how to deal with that, and he's kind of doubting his own self. And of course, like being that Sam is trapped in hell, he meets up with Two Gun Kid for some reason, who takes him to Mephisto, and Mephisto's like, no, you can't go. And Brother Voodoo and the rest, and Patriot and Falcon, the other Falcon, and them along with Damon Hellstrom, try to get Sam's soul out of hell and back into his body, which they end up doing at the end of this issue. Ready to take on Blackheart, who's the cause of all this problems in the first place. Star Wars: The Last Jedi, DJ, Most Wanted. Is this book necessary? No. If you want to know about how the character in The Last Jedi, if you care about that character, I am not one of them, got to where he was when you see him in Last Jedi, then this gets you there in a kind of a long, I don't want to say convoluted way, but it's actually well written. It's just, sure, whatever. But yeah, you see how he got to where he is. It's one shot, sure. Mystic U number 2. So we haven't talked about this before. So Zatanna and the other magic users of the DC universe, which I don't know the whole lot about, I will say, are in this. This is basically ends up being, I don't want to say Harry Potter, but it's Harry Potter sorta, or more specifically like the Magicians, because what ends up happening is that there's this big bad called the Malevolence that looks like was causing problems in the present, which causes Zatanna and Rose, Dr. Psyche, whoever she is, to do a spell to send Zatanna back to an earlier version of herself without the knowledge of herself. And she ends up being enrolled in a magical boarding school to learn how to use her powers. And she meets up with Felix Faust's son, the Enchantress, and a couple other people who she begins friends with, and they have adventures. But also, apparently, one of them might end up being the Malevolence that is the creeping big bad that is coming. And in this issue, we see the Malevolence. They try to find out, the faculty tries to find out who the Malevolence is, and that didn't work at first. But then the kids try to evoke, not knowing it's the Malevolence, try to evoke them again for something that happens when they get in some trouble. And the Malevolence ends up taking a form, and Sebastian Faust and Zatanna have a moment, and he seems like he kills her. So yeah, that is from the DC corner of the Mystic Universe, whatever. Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur number 27. So there's the still thing with the Thing and the Human Torch, and now Herbie, who's around, but there's a bunch of Herbie references and references to the TV show, and including that the reason why supposedly Herbie was replacing the Human Torch comes up, which I thought was kind of fun. But outside of that, it is Lunella and the other two kind of sort of becoming the Fantastic Three and getting into some issues, trying to help out, trying to be a team, but it's not working out too well at first. But then Galactus kind of comes along, and there's also these imposters or seemingly imposters who's doing FF style robberies using the FF's powers. But we spoiler alert, because I don't think anybody's reading this, we've come to find out it's the Super Skrull at the end of this issue. So of course there is that. Last but not least is Black AF, America's Sweetheart, which I have a physical copy right here, that came out this week. It's a graphic novel from the folks over at Black Mask. It is, if the name Black is familiar, it is because of the other graphic novels called Black that have preceded this. This is in that same universe. This is the story of Ellie Foster, I think her name is. I can't remember her last name. Ellie Franklin, excuse me. She's a teenage girl who apparently is the strongest person on the earth. And if you don't know, this earth has the only people who have powers are Black people, but not every Black person. Ellie is adopted by this white couple who apparently are in the government some kind of way. Her dad is like a high-ranking, is in the White House some kind of way, but they didn't want her to use her powers at first, and up until she finds out that there are other Black people with powers, she tries not to, but she's frustrated. But now she's a teen and wants to go out and help people, but doing good things, but she couldn't do that because her father told her not to. But then she comes across this thing called BOB, which is this orb that or at least that's what she names it, that seems to be doing some things for her. Like one gave her a suit to access her communication and stuff like that. But she doesn't know where she got it from. So she goes around as this hero. Good girl starts doing heroic acts. But of course she gets found out by the government and her father, who knew she was right off the bat. So she goes into training with them after a couple of incidents with some people trying to sway her to another cause, or trying to get her away from the government. But then she finds out she has a sister who's kind of this supposed terrorist, an actual blood sister who's a terrorist, and then they end up fighting, and some things happening around that. So it's overall, from what I've read, I've actually finished it, but it's a pretty good story overall. Like, it starts out one way and then just goes into another one, which almost kind of reminds me of a Starfire, Blackfire situation when it comes to when her sister comes around, even except for obviously they're both on Earth. And like I said, their big fight and the things that happen surrounding that come into play. So yeah, it is a good, it's definitely a pretty good story. I enjoyed it. So that is it for me.
The done in one?
Yes and no. Like at the end, there is
provides for the the possible continuing.
Some of the stuff that goes on in the world. But,
okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Clicks of the week.
Clicks of the week incoming. All right.
Well, we know Tim's, and I.
Doug has his written down with the question mark.
One from last week, which I took off of there anyway, but we're going
Well, I noticed someone had deleted Thanos as my click of the week since it was last week's book. So
it will still apply, but I'm putting it officially for last week, though.
But so my click is Silencer.
What you said it is. It just can't go for it this week. I mean, it just can't go officially for this week, but that is it's still.
Well, fine. Put Thanos as my click for last week, and my click for this week is Silencer.
Sounds good to me.
That works. I'm gonna go with Spider-Gwen number 28.
I kind of want to go with Tales of Suspense because it was pretty good, but I think I am going to go with not sure. I will go with the Tales of Suspense 101.
Cool.
Like there's some stuff in other books that made me laugh a little bit harder, but that was just a pretty genuinely solid book.
Right. It's like, I hate this guy. Just like the little, thought bubbles kind of.
Yeah, it's like whole Tango and Cash thing they got going on.
Definitely. All right. So we are now at the end of the review section. We jump into our first ad of the night. Our first ad of the night is for Funko, Fun at First Sight. Your home for exclusive collectibles such as their world famous pop vinyl bobbleheads, apparel, t-shirts, hats, and socks, and brand merchandise, custom DIY pop figures, art books, and skateboards. And now, the listeners of the KLIQ Nation's Comic Book Chronicles can enjoy 10% off your entire purchase when shopping at Funko. To place your first order with 10% off and to help keep our show free for you, go to our network website at cspn.us. That's cspn.us. Then click on the Keep Our Podcast Free link at the top of the page. From there, scroll down to the Funko link and place your order. When you get to the checkout, put in the offer code SHOP10 for your 10% off discount. Funko through cspn.us. Do it today.
Alrighty, I'm gonna combine some of these news stories into one because it's they're all talking about the same thing.
Yeah.
But today DC announced. Oh wait, I'm in the comment section. Go up. There we go. First Ant-Man and the Wasp trailer.
Lots of fun.
Yeah, it looks cool.
Yeah, I thought it looked all right. I mean, nothing was really given away to me.
Thankfully.
Well, I like the, not really a spoiler alert, but what did you guys think of the ghost? When I spotted it, I was like, oh, snap, I think that's the ghost.
Yeah, Ghost is villain, is a woman.
Yeah, they've said, that the ghost is going to be there and who it is. So
look for that, I guess, to be probably on with Black Panther when it comes out on the 16th, 15th, whichever date that is.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
Assholes plan to sabotage Black Panther's Rotten Tomato score, spoil fans.
Idiots.
All right, wait, stop. First of all, no. If you actually look at the screenshot the guy submitted, there were 15 people who did this. That's not exactly like this movement to get something done.
Well, here's the thing about this. So the way this article has it, they're like DC fans. They said specifically DCU fans plan to sabotage. Blah blah blah. Okay, so yeah, like Dirt said that there's these people that are claiming to do this, there's a small group of people that is doing that, and it sounds like it's made up of some of the same people who have done petitions for other stuff in the past for all kind of ridiculous stuff.
Facebook kicked their event off tonight. By the way, I saw that come up while we were recording or right before we started. So there is that.
Yeah, and then Rotten Tomatoes came out and said that no, we're not playing any of that. But Rotten Tomatoes has also been gamed before, so
but I mean it's also one of these things where it was not really a thing. You know what I mean? You had a handful of people who were out there just trolling, doing a thing. It was not a big. It's not like you had 20,000 people descended on Rotten Tomatoes. I mean, it's one of these. The more I see articles about it, and the more I'm like, you know what? I'll go rate it. Just shut up. This is not a thing. The more they talk about it, the more they make it a bigger thing than it ever actually was.
It's like the sort of sports analogies, the VAR balls and the loudest people always get the most pub.
Yeah,
basically. So that's I don't know.
I mean, that's like you the people who there were people saying that they were going to boycott Black Panther because it wasn't actually filmed in Wakanda.
Yeah,
they were like, they did not go to Africa and they did not film it in Africa. They filmed it in Atlanta. So I'm going to boycott the film because they're not going to Wakanda and showing them love.
Yeah, and I think I want to say that almost ended up being something, not exactly as it was, but whatever it is, that was still stupid that it happened, and that one kind of blew over for glue because people kind of went at whoever did that.
I mean, this is the same thing the other way. It's just move on.
So silly.
Oscar-winning actress buying out Black Panther showings for undeserved communities. So good for Octavia Spencer.
Yeah,
did you say undeserved?
Underserved.
Underserved.
I think you said undeserved. You people don't deserve this. I'm buying out the shows.
You don't deserve to go, but I'm taking you anyway.
Yeah, apparently this is not the first time Octavia Spencer has done something like this. So this is a cool thing indeed.
I did not see this when I watched the episode. Black Lightning name drops Supergirl in Lawanda, the Book of Burial.
Yeah, so apparently there's a couple of characters were talking in a bookstore, and apparently there was a reference to the Outsiders book and a actual name drop from Supergirl. I've not seen this episode either, so I don't know. But yeah, that's what the article says.
This is episode 3?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I haven't seen 2 yet, so I saw the pilot, so I'm a little behind.
Nintendo partners.
Speculation as to what that could mean.
Sure.
Even is not officially a part of the Arrowverse.
Nintendo partners with Minion Studio to produce animated Super Mario movie.
I know I'm sure why one of y'all wanted this in here, but sure.
Because it was empty when I first saw it, so I was like, here's the stuff I remember. And finally, a report that Titans TV show may be casting Ra's al Ghul. See where that goes once that finally drops sometime this year. That being DC's digital streaming service. And in comic book news, DC revealed what books Brian Michael Bendis will be writing for them. Action Comics and Superman with the Man of Steel weekly 5-issue series. His Jinx World imprint will be moving over there. He's going to have his own Gerard Way type imprint with actually using established DC characters along with new characters, and a whole bunch of stuff is coming. Scott Snyder is going to write along with James Tynion and Joshua Williamson. They're going to redo the Justice League family of titles later this year in the spring/summer, kicking off with a post-metal event called Justice League No Justice.
Yeah, this was the news that dropped late last week, right after the show.
Friday evening, actually, it came out. DC Nation fan magazine will preview 2018 DC Comics events. So the same Justice League stuff I talked about before. Tom King's going to have a Batman story where the Joker finds out Batman and Catwoman are getting married. Bendis will have a Superman tale in there as well. This will be 25 cents in stores for the hard copy and free digitally. I guess it comes out monthly. I don't think it really said in the press release. Valiant acquired by entertainment company DMG. That was kind of big. Joe Quesada pens open letter on social media's impact on comics. Beetle Bailey creator Mort Walker dies at 94. May he rest in peace.
Yeah, rest in peace.
And a report that broke right before we started recording of Stan Lee rushed to hospital came from TMZ. So hopefully he is doing well.
Yeah, according to the Hollywood Reporter, Stan Lee is doing well after checking into the hospital. So that has been tweeted out recently.
They just have to recharge that Android battery, and then he'll be good to go for another 10 years.
He's got to make it till the end of the MCU's whatever final phase, so he can have his final cameo in Avengers 4 before the universe is rebooted.
Yeah, I was about to say, you don't think they've already filmed that just in case? I thought they did.
Oh yeah, that's right. That did come out a while ago that he's filmed all whatever scenes. Because he never actually he never appears on camera with any of the actors, right? It's always like him off to the side or something.
Right.
So squeeze those in. Alrighty, last ad read of the night.
Alrighty, so our last ad read of the night is for Blue Apron's meal delivery service. Blue Apron, fresh ingredients and incredible recipes delivered weekly to your door. Skip the grocery store and make incredible meals at home with Blue Apron, always shipped free right to your home. And now, the listeners of the KLIQ Nation's Comic Book Chronicles can get $30 off your first Blue Apron order. To place your first order with $30 off and to help keep our show free for you, go to our network website at cspn.us. That's cspn.us. Then click on the Keep Our Podcast Free link at the top of the page. From there, scroll down to the Blue Apron link and sign up for your first order. Blue Apron through cspn.us. Do it today.
You can follow us on our individual Twitter accounts. I'm at TimDLGG98 and at CBCron. PCN_Dirt is at PCN_Dirt on Twitter, and go to his website, popculturenetwork.com.
And before we take off, just real quick, I want to throw something out there. Today, I went to Graham Crackers Comics in Normal, Illinois, and in their 50-cent box, I found an actual piece of comic book archaeology. I cannot believe this was only 50 cents. I found a first print copy of the Geriatric Gangrene Jiu-Jitsu Gerbils, if you can believe it. This was from Planet X Comics. And
who's the publisher?
Planet X. Planet X Comics. So this they had an advertisement for number 2, but number 2 sadly never actually came out. So, but yes, there we go. The Geriatric Gangrene Jiu-Jitsu Gerbils.
You can follow Roddy Cat on Twitter at Roddy Cat and at News Nerds Need, and follow him on Instagram, CB Caps. And Agent 70 is at Agent_70 on Twitter and Instagram. And with that, we'll be back next week. Remember, Thursday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern Time, theclipnation.com/live. We are the Comic Book Chronicles, and we are signing off.
Peace!
Good evening, Rick. Would you believe it's Dr. Doom? What's on your evil mind? Hold your insulting tongue and mark my words well.
How about this rumor that you are really Iron Man, Mr. Stark?